Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Roy here with another awesome update for SpecFreq. It's been a while since my last video. I've been pretty busy both adding links to the game and optimizing it. Before I jump in, I am excited to show you the first kill inside the game. I've had a couple play testers helping me out playing the game, giving me some good feedback. And then the first person to officially be killed in SpecFreq is Chiller. Really appreciate his help. He's been giving me some awesome feedback, things I've added to the game, and some good performance updates. As you can see by the red text on the screen, I did frag him, and I got the first kill, and he got the first being killed. So congrats to him on that milestone. And yeah, so let's jump into the game. A couple of things we're going to talk about today. I focus on performance improvements, so those will be a little harder to see. Where you'll see it is when you play the game, the frame rate will be up. We're going to talk about some map updates that I've done. We'll talk about some new ammo boxes I've made and some cool engineering class updates. Before we get started, I'm going to throw out a little thing out there. If you want to join us on Discord, I'm always looking to have more people help me test, especially with the multiplayer game, the more the merrier. So let's jump in. So this will all look pretty familiar to you. Big change here on the UI, the minimap. I don't think I had this in the last video. If I did, I'm just going to repeat it. So the minimap now is a bit more detailed. You can see some of the updates I've made to the game. So you see I've started to build out this base here. This is going to be a little bit of a military base. I'll probably throw an extra tank or two here. Also working on a potential dropship. So it'll let you kind of traverse over the water. If you look in the top left corner here, do you see these coordinates that are updating? So here's the green dot is your position. And that's in the top left. The pointer position is where your mouse is, and then you can see the distance underneath that. Kind of gives players an idea of where they're trying to head and how far they're going to go. I started working on the north area here. It's going to be a little bit more snowy. I'm working on potentially, I got to see how it hits performance, but putting some kind of shader in there so it kind of simulates like it's snowing and maybe tracks in the snow. Area on the left here, still more canyony. I'm thinking about putting a giant lake here with maybe little islands. I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do with this bottom part yet. My focus is always where would it be a cool place to build a base, and what would that base look like. That's why I kind of started adding trees here. I think this is going to be a very wooded kind of part of the map here. This being the military base with only one in and out. Obviously a lot of good opportunities to build bases here. And then, if you think of right now, I'm focused on Warzone mode in the game, where it's just kind of everyone for themselves, and you're just kind of collecting, bounties. When I start adding capture the flag, there's going to be a couple options. Where do you want to put your flag? Where do you want to try and protect it, right? So that's kind of what I think about when I'm adding stuff to the map. So that's the map view. Let's jump into the game now. So I do have two versions of the game running because I do want to show some multiplayer stuff. It's going to run super slow, and I apologize because remember, my laptop does not love OBS, and especially not when I have two versions. There's my other client here in the game, two versions running. Let me switch to the other client. Just say hi. Hey, buddy. Hi. Boom. Rude. So, actually, I'm going to mute the audio real quick because I noticed in the last videos that audio really takes over everything. All right, awesome. All right, so the first thing I want to show, and I'm going to actually switch that other class to be an engineer class. So you're not seeing this here. I'll bring it over here so you can see it. Let's switch. This is all messed up because I switched resolutions when I'm going back over here. My other monitor is a different resolution. And I'm going to give this class a turret and a sandbag. Alright, let's unspectate for this other one. Alright, so bringing him over here. So for the engineer class, they have a couple different options. You see in the inventory here, this version of the game right now is an infantry class. And so I have my light and my heavy inventory slots, but the engineer class has build slots. So in this case, I've picked, and I got to clean this up a little bit, a personal turret, and like I said, a sandbag. So if I go in the game here, and I'm going to do it from the other screen so you can just see it in real time. And I'm going to put a sandbag here. Sweet. Another sandbag here. And another sandbag here. Now the sandbag, well, the object that you put down is going to face your actual player. Now, because I don't want to die immediately, I'm going to back out of the way, because the other thing I'm going to do, I'll put another sandbag down by accident. That's okay. Other thing I'm going to do is put down a turret. So you probably remember these turrets from the previous versions of the game. They're still mean. They still are good at shooting. And once it locks onto me, I'll try, because they're not on the same team. Oh, it's lying. Alright, it's not shooting at me. Well, that's a bug. I'm going to have to fix it. I don't know why it's not shooting at me. That's not ideal. But yeah, so as an engineer class, you're able to put down different things in the game. In this case, sandbags. I don't even know who it's shooting at. That's embarrassing, bro. It's very embarrassing. And then as the regular player, you can blow things up. So I'm going to shoot at this a couple times. I think like I gave the turrets, so the personnel turrets had about 50 hit points. And the anti-tank turrets have a little bit more. I think the sandbags have about 100. So let's see. There we go. So that guy's gone there. And the cool thing is, on top of tracking your player kills, like how many people you've killed, how many times you've been killed, I now track machine kills. So anytime you kill a turret, anytime you kill a vehicle, sandbags, that kind of thing, that's now a stat that we'll be tracking. I don't think I have it shown up in the scores yet. Oh, I do. Yeah, there you go. There's my machine kill right there. So I'll be tracking that over the lifetime of the game, so your character will kind of build up on all those kills and everything. Other things you can destroy are sandbags. Sandbags take a little bit longer. I think I gave them about 100 hit points. We're gonna let this go and see how long it takes to destroy this guy. There are certain classes, like the infantry, for example, that I'm gonna let build stuff, because I think being able to build sandbags doesn't require you to be an engineer. And so I think the infantry will be able to build little things like sandbags and like light walls, for example. But the engineer class is going to be the one required to build any kind of machine objects. Man, how long does it take to destroy this sandbag? Maybe I lied. Maybe I gave it a lot more than 100. I don't even know. Oh, it destroyed on my other screen. That's weird. You see it's gone there. Okay, so anyway, alpha mode of the game. The game's still pretty debug kind of thing, so we'll get there. But yeah, so I'm trying to find the right balance of what classes actually get the ability to build things and what they get to build. There's another object in the game here. I'm actually gonna close the other game right now because I don't need that anymore. So, all right, peace out, Danger X. You should be. Oh yeah, it dropped out already. There are these walls down here. If I go a little south, I have some prototype. These walls right here, you see where my mouse is circling? These walls are actually buildable by the player as well. I think these kind of like heavy duty walls will need to be built by an engineer. So as the regular player, I'm gonna drop out and change to an engineer. I'm probably only gonna have the sandbag option as a regular, or as like an infantry or heavy or something like that. But as an engineer, I will have the option to build like these more heavy duty walls. They'll have a lot more hit points, and maybe we'll give them some other characteristics. So let me switch back to the infantry class. The other thing I wanted to show off, and this is another new addition to the game, is refillable ammo boxes. So let's go down here. You start seeing these little boxes here. Each box will have something different in it. So when you go next to it, it opens up. And then you see in the text down here, it said this one restocked 50 cannon. This one restocked sniper bullets. Each one's going to be different. It kind of depends on what the zone designer picks for each one. These are also refillable boxes. Rockets. And this zone that I'm building, I use these for more of the heavy weapon kind of things. And then more importantly, because this is my light gun, the box at the spawn actually refills bullets. So you go to it a couple times, and it kind of just tops me off there each time. I just noticed while we were playtesting that I was constantly running out of ammo, and it was constantly getting very annoying. So those are kind of some of the content updates of the game. What you haven't really seen behind the scenes, because it is a little hard to show, is so you see I have this like vertices counter down here. I got a little overboard for a while with how many just kind of like all the stuff being built in the game, and I wasn't really optimizing for 3D drawing. And what I found was even when I'd go out to somewhere kind of boring, I'll take the car out to it, which is just kind of like the flat green plains where I haven't added anything, right? Even when I go out here, when there was really nothing on the screen, my vertices count was like 5 or 6 million. And when I looked into it, I realized a couple things. When I built the ground of the game, like the thing that I'm driving on right now, the vertices count even in those areas, it was pretty high. And the reason it was originally high is because when you go to things like, I'm just going to drive out to the water. One of these days I need to get a better laptop so my frame rate is not 26 frames per second when I'm using OBS. So when you get to out here where kind of like there's a river here, I wanted for it to not be such a harsh cutoff. I think this is like a decent balance, where the water edge has like a little bit of a cutoff, but you see like there's a little bit of texture to it, right? Not texture, but a little bit of I don't know, body to it. I don't know what the right word is. And so that's where I kind of tried to find the balance of like how many triangles are in the game. But what I wasn't doing is on the really flat areas, I wasn't combining them into one giant one. So like this little area might still have 30 in it. And then when you get to the bigger map, like this little area might still have several thousand in it. So I spent some time in Blender kind of redoing all the vertices. So now this is almost all, really it's only like 2 or 3. Not probably more than 2 or 3, but it's not that many. Where you get a little more detailed is along the edges of the water, but then once you get back to the flat area, and then it goes back down into the single digits. So that really helped. That took me down to where I'm at now, which is, I mean, I think the average is like about 1 to 1.5 million vertices are being drawn. And then the other thing that I did is I noticed that when the shader was running, the water shader, I had for all the water one giant plane that just covered everything. And my thought was, well, cool, now when I want to add water, I don't have to worry about anything. I just cut a hole here and the water shader automatically kicks in. Because the way the water shader works is it's just detecting where it intersects another piece of mesh. And so let me go somewhere that actually has something in the water. All right, so the way it's working here is it's saying that, hey, I mean, there's a time variable on it, which is why it's raising and lowering. That's a little bit random. And then it's saying, oh, in this one spot on the 3D plane, I'm intersecting this other mesh, so I'm going to make these pixels white. That's how I get this cool little water foam effect, right? Well, because it was the entirety of the map, it was running that shader on every single pixel inside the mesh, which isn't bad if it wasn't for the fact that my map is pretty massive. And also, if you think about it, in this like green area here, right, in this green area here, in this white area here, we already know there's not going to be any water there because I have a giant land area. So what I did is I went into Blender, and I took my water map and I made it a little bit thicker. So instead of the water ending here, like it kind of ends here on the little bit, probably 20 pixels into the coastline. And I deleted all the insides. So the only thing left inside my water mesh is actually just the water itself and a little bit of border, so that way it can show where it intersects with the mesh. Now the shader doesn't have to run on all these areas. So it adds a little bit of work later because I was thinking about maybe putting a lake in here. And if I end up doing that, then yeah, I might have to go redo my water mesh. But that only adds probably like an extra half hour of work compared to like how much less processing the shader now takes. So I know the game, it says down here it's at 30 frames per second. Again, OBS just like wrecks my laptop. But what I found now is I do get consistently 60 frames per second, no matter where I'm at in the game. And then the other big bonus, so the other thing I did is when I turn off VSync in Godot, it makes it so it doesn't restrict the game to 60 frames per second. It actually lets the physics run separately. So normally the physics runs on its own, and then the display just syncs itself to the physics. So that way, you don't have the display doing something that the physics hasn't allowed and things jump all over the place. It's called VSync. I think that's right. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But if you turn it off, it lets the display run as fast as it wants. It's good for debugging. It's not great for games like this where I need the physics to run, and I need the display to be accurate, especially when it comes to the bullets. And so in the case, when I turn it off, it will let the display just run. And what I found is before I added the water mesh thing, I was getting probably 100 or 90 to 100 frames per second. In some areas less. Like when you get into this area right here, where you're in between the buildings, there's a lot of things the game is drawing because there's just little desks and chairs. There's a lot of additional lighting inside the building where there's actually like a little cover over the building, so I don't get outside lighting. I only get inside light. And then you have all these little things here. So when you're in an area like this and it's drawing all this stuff, I mean, I was getting, without VSync on, I was getting like 70 frames per second. Well, second I fixed that water shader, I am now consistently getting about 100 to 110 in this really busy area. And then once I leave this area and when I go into like the bigger plains area, then it's a lot better. Then I get, a good like 130, 140. And that's mainly because that shader isn't having to run in areas that it doesn't need to run. So that's another performance update. The other thing I'm probably going to do soon is look at some of the models that I'm using. There are some that I bought off a site. I think it's called SketchFab. Like for example, this little pergola right here. These are all individual rectangles that are being drawn, and then like this whole thing is like a straight up 3D model, right? Well, can I achieve the same look by having a flat plane, so it's maybe only one square, and then using alpha, so using an image that has an alpha layer, and then just like making parts of these transparent. And because I have a bunch of these pergolas, this kind of thing can kind of add up, right? So that's the kind of performance stuff I'm working on. Over the next couple weeks, what I have planned. So one, I'm going to work on an option screen, so that way my testers have the ability to kind of load up what options work best for their computers, because some of them also have laptops like mine. Some have pretty Gucci laptops that work really well, so they're not as worried about performance. So I want to at least give them the option where they can turn off certain things like the water shader, turn off lighting, because lighting is another thing that takes up a lot of CPU and GPU. And that way they can tell me what really impacts their performance the most, so I know where to focus my time when it comes to fixing things. I'm just going to drive down here. So I'm going to work on the option screen. The other thing that I'm thinking about doing, and this is a pretty major lift, so I just got to determine whether I really want to do it, is I think I might upgrade the game to Godot 4.0. So what I've been reading is Godot 4 has a lot of 3D performance improvements. There are pros and cons to it. I think it uses new Vulkan engine, so there are certain computers that aren't compatible with it. So I got to figure out what the balance is there. But the performance improvements I've heard are pretty good. The multiplayer is pretty good too. But the downside is it is a pretty huge rewrite when it comes to anything multiplayer. So I got to ask myself, is that really something I want to do? Here's a tunnel, by the way. It's not really a tunnel. It's more like this is the edge of the map, and here's the road, and it ends. So a player can't really go in there at all. So I think what you're going to see is, since I'm going to fix the turret thing that you saw before. I'm not sure why it wasn't firing at anyone. But since I have a little bit of stuff that testers can go in and play with and enjoy in the game, I'm going to take the time, I think, to switch to Godot 4. Still a maybe. I'll let you know. I'm not 100% on it because it's such a big change. And after that, then it really comes down to just building up more of the classes. I want to do a heavy weapons class, probably add more weapons inside the game, more things that the player can build, that kind of thing. So that's where I'm at in the game. Those are all the updates in the game. Appreciate you all listening, and I'll see you next video. Peace.